Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sputnik channel. Tamron 28-75 is the hero of the day. And we're gonna answer this question today. Is it still worth to buy this lens despite some years that have passed from the date of release, premiere? Let's answer. All right, so we get Tamron 28-75 Di3VXD-G2 2.8. And this camera, this lens, won a lot of popularity among photographers that are in the market for a universal zoom lens, and it's no-brainer if you are in that market because it's well made. So let's talk about the build quality, then we will talk about image quality and video work quality, and then we will get to the conclusion: is it still worth buying in 2024 and 2025 and 2026? And yeah. So when it comes to build quality, it's a typical Tamron. So it's made of plastic, but it's not plastic fantastic. It's not the bad plastic. Everything works pretty smooth, pretty fine, at least. And the one I have is just working really fine. Everything like focus ring works pretty smooth. You have USB-C to upgrade your firmware. You have customizable button. You have this weather sealed gasket here, and that works, gasket, and that works pretty fine. And one of the things I like about Tamron that it's standardized its filter thread, filter thread size. It's 67 millimeters. So if you have the previous one, upgrade won't hurt you that much because you can still use all the filters you purchased. So that's a good thing. But now let's talk about the most important thing, which is image quality. And image quality has some pros and cons, but overall image sharpness is the main feature of this lens. So in center, both on 28mm and 75mm, as you can see, straight from 2.8, you have a sharp image. Generally speaking, this lens performs better at focal length like between 28 and 50, like those more like wider focal lengths, than on something between 50 and 75. Where the sharpness drops and generally contrast and a lot of things drops, but that's nothing dramatic here. So in center you have a sharp image. In corners on 28 you can see some drop in sharpness, but it's nothing dramatic, and on 5.6 it's sharp from center to corner with some drop still, and f11 of course some diffraction. At 75 you can see it's a little softer, but in corner the softness drops more dramatically than it's on 28, but still nothing to be afraid of, specifically that if you're shooting at 75 you will be shooting a lot of portraits, and like corner sharpness it's like not really important. And if you stop it down to 5.6, the sharpness comes back. You have a little bit of purple and blue fringing there in the corners, and again it disappears at 5.6. So it's a standard performance, but when it comes to sharpness in the middle, it is a spectacular zoom lens because, like, prime lenses are a different thing. Okay, so now let's talk about chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration is visible there. So if you can see a close-up of the vinyl record that I shot in my studio, then you will see some bluish and purplish fringing there, but nothing dramatic, easy to remove in post, so you can use it safe in close-ups, both on 28 and 75, but close-ups, when talking about close-ups, are much better at 28, and when it comes to close-up image quality in overall, you can come really close on 28, like 18 centimeters, I think, which is really close, like that close. I don't know how much is it in inches, but like that, more or less. So it's really close, and the sharpness is really, really nice. And 75, the sharpness at close-up is not that nice, so you have to stop it down to 5.6 more or less to get a really sharp image. Now let's talk about a very important factor, which is bokeh, like the look of the unsharp part of the unsharp, like out of the focus parts of the image. And this is the main improvement here. The previous generation Tamron had a really bad bubble soap effect or onion ring effect, and sometimes you just couldn't tell if you should look at the background or the main subject of your image. And here it's much better. It's a smooth, little like teardrop effect on the corner, but it's a smooth bokeh overall. No almost no onion ring effect, so it's pretty clean, pretty soft. It has a character, I would say, but that's not a bad thing. So you can see the images of my wife's portraits, like my wife's portraits here, and like the bokeh behind is little, like, I would say a little vintage, which is a good thing. This is the look you want. So basically, to me, bokeh is the main upgrade in this lens, and it's good for a, you know, universal zoom lens. When it comes to autofocus performance, it can be a little shy, a little bit undecided here and there, but honestly, I never had any issues like in real life with focusing. And again, like my wife's portraits are sharp, it's always like right in the eye, like the focus is just right there where it should be. It can pump a little bit here and there, it can be a little bit sluggish, a little bit slow here and there, but nothing major, absolutely nothing to be worried about. And as you can see, like the images that I took to test it are sharp, and when my wife, she's moving very fast, autofocus is catching up. Of course, a lot depends on your settings in the camera, but that's another subject. Okay, now let's talk about performance against the light. This is important because a lot of you guys will be trying this lens against the light, maybe working a little bit with portraits, with, you know, this dramatic backlight during the sunset or sunrise. So I have to report, and this is a good news, that the contrast of the lens is really well controlled in these situations. The lens hood is really small, so it doesn't help too much, but you can always put lens hood for some improvement, but still, even without the lens hood, the contrast against harsh light is good. Flaring, not that good, unfortunately. This is like where Tamron didn't make a lot of improvement. It's still colorful, it still can get a little bit messy, but that's what it is. However, I gotta say that working against the harsh light with this lens is not bad because the contrast remains pretty much perfect. Nah, not perfect, but good enough for that scenario, okay? Next, let's move to the video section. Video section is mainly about focus pulling and is there a focus breathing effect. So there is a focus breathing effect, like more horizontal type of breathing effect, both on 28 and 75. Again, more on 75 than on 28, but nothing dramatic. So if you want to pull some focus with this lens, there's nothing to be worried about, really. I've seen worse in this kind of lenses. So this focus breathing is negligible. But of course, it's there, so something to keep in mind. So now let's answer this simple question. Is this lens still worth purchasing in 2024? Or maybe there's a time for a new release from Tamron, or maybe you should look at Sigma or maybe at G Master. Let's try to sum it up. So I had a lot of fun taking photos with this lens, and I took a lot of samples that you can see right now, and I enjoyed using it. I was a little worried that 28 would be not enough for me because I like to work with, well, wide-angle lenses. I like to be closer to my subjects, but I somehow enjoyed working with it, and I never missed 24, besides maybe 3 or 4 situations during 2 weeks with this lens that I was missing a little wider focal lengths, but I enjoyed 75 at the end, at the other hand. So as you can see, I had a blast with this lens. I discovered new part of Spanish southern coast, somewhere close to Granada, which is really cool place. And you know, like walking with this light, small, compact lens and enjoying like this versatile like focal range and bright aperture was a blast. In the night, I forgot to mention, in the night the star effect is pretty cool, but it's again messy. So generally speaking, both flares and like performance in the night when the stars are taken into consideration, like, you know, the stars that are created by lights, when you stop it down to f11 more or less, then you have a little bit of mess. However, again, the contrast is beautifully kept. So again, this is a versatile lens that you can both use during the day and during the night. However, some of you may say, oh, it's not worth upgrading because I can buy a previous version of this lens cheaper on the used market, and that's true, but you never know what you're getting. And the improvements specifically in bokeh, in the look of the unsharp areas, are pretty spectacular. The place where the improvements are not really that much visible is vignetting. Vignetting both on the previous one and on the one that I'm presenting right now, on the second version, as you can see, is pretty dramatic. at 2.8, but nothing to be afraid of because the correction profile does correct it pretty well. So the vignetting is pretty even, so it's easy to, you know, remove it in post if you are afraid of lots of vignetting. Okay, so now let's get to the point. There's also Sigma 24-70 that you've seen on my channel, like a review on my channel, which I like, but I feel like it needs a refresh, and it's still a much more expensive lens. So honestly, if you don't feel like you really need this 24, I think 28-75 Tamron version 2 2.8 is a better purchase. Of course, you know, there's G Master 24-70 2.8, but that is a very expensive lens, and of course it's a great lens, and I don't say it is not, but still, for like 90% of you guys on the market, like looking for some universal zoom lens, 28-75 Tamron, for the price and for the performance it offers, is one of the best choices on the market, period, and it's still worth buying. And this wasn't sponsored, I just like this lens because it is light and universal. If you guys liked this video, please don't forget to leave thumbs up, subscribe. I enjoy to have more subscribers and more of you guys here enjoying the videos. So please turn on the notification ring there if you haven't already. And I see you guys in the next recording. Cheers.